Sojourner Truth was a very prominent African-American figure, and she fought for women's rights and for abolitionist rights, and she escaped to freedom from slavery. Sojourner Truth had many drives for her actions. Both her children were enslaved, as well as her, and also being a woman, especially a black woman, she endured many prejudices and harsh treatment, so she fought for women's rights as well as slavery. Many slaves endured many horrible conditions, and they were physically beaten by their owners, and it says in many documents that she was poorly treated, so one can assume, we don't know specifically what happened to her, but that she may have had a lack of food, she may have been abused by her owner. Running away with her daughter was obviously very risky for Sojourner Truth because they could be caught and be hung, just left out in the cold and not have anything to live. However, slavery, as we know, was so bad in its time that life or death really didn't seem like that much of them to them, because they did not want to live like that, and they did not want to be owned, they did not want to live in those poor conditions. They were desperate to get out of it. And since Sojourner Truth did escape slavery, she felt it was her need to help others who were still in it. Sojourner Truth escaped with her infant daughter, but she had to leave all her other children behind in other households in slavery. When Sojourner Truth escaped, she, at this time, was still Isabella Baumfree, and she went to New York City, and she lived with Elijah Pearson, who was very religious. And in 1843, she had a spiritual breakthrough, and she changed her name to Sojourner Truth. And during her religious breakthrough, the Spirit called her to preach, and that's when she started going on tour and giving all her speeches around the country. Lots of people came out to see her speeches, including men, which at the time was unheard of because she was a black woman giving a speech. So the fact that she got a huge reputation from these was pretty incredible.
I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman?
Ain't I a Woman is a powerful speech by Sojourner Truth, and she ended up going on tour, so this is one of her speeches, and it's basically summarizing like all the injustices of being a woman, especially being a black woman, and saying men have this, but why don't women have this, and it's not equal. So as a result of the fame that she gained from going on her nationwide tour, Sojourner Truth supported the Union in the Civil War, and this held very high because she was very esteemed by them from going on her tour, and she spoke up for many rights. And even after the abolition of slavery, she personally thanked Lincoln, which was a big deal because she was an African-American woman and she was talking to the president. Sojourner Truth has fought for many important causes, including women's rights and the abolition of slavery. Me personally, I believe that she is a visionary because these issues still persist today with racism and with women's rights, and so she was really ahead of her time in focusing on these issues and trying to fight for them. However, there were some parts of her history that are a little darker than the others. So shortly after Sojourner Truth left Elijah Pearson's house, he turned up poisoned, and they believe that Sojourner Truth and Robert Matthews were the ones that did it. Matthews was the one who was the con man and also the leader of the cult, and she sort of got involved in that because she was living with him at that time. Robert Matthews, his cult was a radical religious cult, and it was focused around Christianity. She lived with him for a short amount of time. She kind of like went off the road a little bit and went and lived with him and did the cult stuff, and then she came back and started fighting for the women's rights stuff again. A man named Folgers, who was a member of the cult, tried to take Sojourner Truth to court for poisoning Elijah Pearson, but she was acquitted due to a lack of evidence, so that's why it's unknown as to whether or not she actually did it. Obviously, her getting involved in a cult was a little radical. However, I don't think that it outdoes the rest of what she did in her lifetime. I think that that's a small portion of her life, and she did many great things, and there's that one little thing, and I don't think you can discredit the rest of the things that she did in her life because she was involved in a cult for a short period of time. Obviously, the situation with the poison, Sojourner Truth does look a bit guilty. However, she wasn't formally accused of anything, and she got acquitted on the trial, so whether she did it or not is up to the interpreter to decide. I personally believe that Sojourner Truth was a visionary. However, you can believe whatever you want to believe about her, but there's no denying the good that she did.